Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Michael Liebreich.
Good morning, Your Excellencies, ladies, gentlemen, everyone. It's an enormous honor to be here helping to open up the second day of this great forum. Rachel mentioned some of what happened yesterday. One of the things that I found most striking was actually after the official sessions here, there was also a high-level group that went to the Mart art gallery and associated, it's the old turbine hall of a coal-fired power station. There was a dinner. We listened to the Minister of Environment, João Fernandes, who gave us words of encouragement. And then there was wonderful fados music, the Portuguese fados music. It was great. And I was really struck by the acoustics. And I thought, you know, here we are in a coal-fired power station. I mean, this is the future, right? Think of all those coal-fired power stations being built in Turkey and in Vietnam and in Thailand and in Indonesia and Colombia and so on. And they're building coal-fired power stations. And all I can say is, I hope they're thinking about the acoustics, because they're going to be left with a lot of art galleries and concert halls, because that's the future of coal-fired power stations. Let me talk a little bit about where we are, I'll give a little personalized version of the stock take. Now, there was a stock take published yesterday, or the Sustainable Development Goal 7 stock take, but I'll give my summary of that, which is enormous progress, but so much more to do. But let me talk globally before we talk about the specific areas of SE for All's interest. And the way I describe where we are overall in this clean energy and transportation transition worldwide is that we are on track for what I call the three-third world. The three-third world. What does that consist of? By 2040, we're on track globally to get 1/3 of our electricity from wind and solar. 1/3 of the vehicles that you see on the streets, on average, everywhere in the world, will be electric. More than 1/3 of the purchasers, but 1/3 of the vehicles on the street will be electric. And the world will be, the economy, will be 1/3 more energy productive. Every unit of energy will be producing 1/3 more GDP. And it's a pretty encouraging picture. In terms of the electricity, this is clearly driven by these extraordinary reductions in the cost of wind and solar. Do you remember when we were always being challenged? There was always be some bloke saying, yeah, but wind and solar, it's all very well, and it always was a bloke, it always was a man, would say, but you know, it's all subsidized. When is it going to be grid competitive? Well, guess what? Grid competitive already. And it's not just going to be, looking forwards, it's not just that wind and solar will be cheaper than building that coal-fired power station or even the gas-fired power station. It will actually be cheaper than running the existing coal and gas-fired power stations before 2040 in pretty much every country of the world. So we can have a lot of confidence in that electricity transformation around the world. The UK, interestingly, is one of the absolute poster children. If anybody says this transition is going to be slow, look at the UK. 2012, 5 years ago, the UK got 42% of its electricity from coal. Last year, 7%. This does not have to happen slowly. This can happen fast. By 2025, the UK will have no coal in its electricity mix at all. In terms of electric vehicles, it's a bit of an act of faith, because when we look around, you don't see electric vehicles on the roads. We're now at the point where 2% of new purchases of cars are electric, and none of the cars on the road, other than in California and Norway. But that's going to change. All of the trends are in favor of those electric vehicles. Battery costs have come down 75% in the last 5 years. They're coming down another 75% between now and 2030. This will transform transportation, and it will also reinforce and support the transformation in electricity, and in many of your the SE for All countries of greatest interest, it will also transform electricity delivery. It's not just cars. A few weeks ago, I helped Daimler launch a 7.5-ton electric truck in London. And buses. We're very proud. I'm on the board of Transport for London. We're very proud because we have 110 electric buses. It's the largest fleet of electric buses in Europe. Shenzhen, 16,359 electric buses, 100% electric bus fleet. New York, 5,700 buses. All of them are going to be electric by 2040. And energy productivity. The trends are accelerating. It's in the stock take. It's not fast enough. But energy productivity, the 1/3 more productive, is where we're going. Now, the problem is that is not enough. The 3/3 world is a transformation for the better of the world that we know. But it's not enough from a climate perspective. We've got to go further into other segments, heat, industry, agriculture, and so on, and we've got to go faster within the electricity and transport sectors. It's a huge problem, but enormous opportunities. I see them everywhere. There are innovators working on solutions to accelerate beyond the 3/3 world and into deep decarbonization. You can be depressed if you want because it's not fast enough, or you can be excited by the opportunities. Now, when we come to sustainable energy for all, the focus shifts from the globe, obviously, to the countries, the developing world, and most important, energy access. There are 3 goals: renewable energy, energy efficiency, and energy access. But for me, the defining goal of sustainable energy for all is energy access. And the theme of this meeting is leaving no one behind. So I think that that is confirmation that that's correct. Now, I have the privilege of having been present before the birth of SE for All, when it was called something else. 10 years ago, there was a meeting called by Cande Yamkela, hosted in Mexico by Carlos Slim. And I'll tell you, it looked nothing like this. Nothing like this. The numbers of whether it was civic society, financiers, ministerial, energy ministry people, innovators, entrepreneurs. It was a tiny group of enthusiasts, and it was hosted by Carlos Slim. And they came up, and it was in his office, surrounded by the artwork. It was very surreal. The artwork, which is now the Sumaya collection in the wonderful Sumaya Museum. And we had Rembrandts and Lucas Cranachs, and there was actually a Leonardo da Vinci painting. And Carlos Slim clicked his fingers, and a video started to play, and it showed a program that he had funded to help the poorest highland Mexicans move to clean cook stoves. And there was a woman cooking on a clean cook stove funded by Carlos Slim. And it was surreal. I'm thinking, this is the richest man in the world teaching the poorest woman in the world how to cook. All right, that was 10 years ago. That was what this initiative looked like 10 years ago. Think how far we've all come. We're seeing these solutions, real solutions, being rolled out. We've got the leadership. We've got case studies. We've got countries, Kenya, Bangladesh, Rwanda. I was very proud to be involved early on in some of Rwanda's acceleration of its energy access activities. Ethiopia and so on. We have the success stories. Rachel, in her summary, talked about them. We're seeing businesses beginning to scale and pushing into serving millions. not thousands, not tens of thousands, now into the hundreds of thousands and pushing into the millions. And we need to go beyond. We need to get from millions to tens of millions for individual businesses, even into hundreds of millions. That's the scale of the problem, but we're starting to see it. We are starting to see the importance of energy efficiency. Again, one of the points that Rachel made at the end of the proceedings yesterday. The solar revolution, the rooftop solar revolution, is not just a solar revolution, it's an LED revolution. Why? Because a little LED light bulb that takes 3 or 4 watts, you can power with a small solar panel. Filament light bulb, the panel would be big, would be too expensive, we wouldn't have got that rollout. Energy efficiency matters, and we're now starting to see it being built into radios and ceiling fans and refrigerators and television sets, and it needs to go beyond. Energy efficiency is the green revolution of modern services. Modern energy services, modern transportation services rely on energy efficiency in order to reach right out into the economy to all of those people, the 1 billion without electricity, the 3 billion without clean cooking. It's only going to be possible if we're efficient. And what we've learned also is that there is no conflict between the 3 goals of sustainable energy for all. It's not that you do either renewable energy or energy access. It's not that energy efficiency is some third thing that sits over on the side. No, it is one plan. There is no conflict. You do energy efficiency and renewable energy, and you provide energy access. No conflict. No trade-offs. People, planet, and profits. No trade-offs. Now, we made enormous progress, but we need to make sure that going forwards, this continues and is geometric. Arithmetic progress, we've seen that we're going in the right direction. Arithmetic is not good enough. And I have concerns because in electricity we're seeing geometric progress. I have no doubt at all that the electrification goals will be met by 2030. Just look at the cost trends, look at the speed of action, and it's accelerating, and we'll get there. But I'm concerned about heating. I'm concerned about cooling, and I don't mean just air conditioning. I mean the food chain. All of that rotting food, the solution we have, we know what it is, it's cooling. But we're not seeing geometric solutions being rolled out yet. And I'm very worried about cooking. That video that I saw Carlos Slim show of a clean cook stove in Mexico, I don't want to be seeing those videos, seeing that it's all about billionaire donors or government donors in 2030, still trying to move people to those solutions. We have to find ways to make the shift to clean cooking geometric, not arithmetic. I'm worried about grid connections. You know, we're making great progress. You hear that the last village in India is now connected to the grid. This is fantastic news. I don't want to take away from it. But if the village is connected, but the villagers are not connected, that's not a solution. And I'm concerned, particularly, I'm focusing in myself on one area, which is health. And this arose very unexpectedly for me. Towards the end of last year, I saw a tweet by a doctor, an Irish doctor, who's helping in Bow, the 3rd city in Sierra Leone. He set up an intensive care unit, working with the hospital, fantastic, selfless involvement, but working with the grain of those heroes, one could say, in Sierra Leone, rebuilding their health system after the ravages of Ebola. And he set up a neonatal intensive care unit, 75 babies admitted every month. And the tweet said this: last night, we had a power cut. 3 of our most vulnerable babies died. Surely, in this day and age with solar power, that shouldn't happen. That hit me like a punch in the guts. That shouldn't happen. And I decided to get together with some friends and some colleagues. We created something called Project Bow. Richenda Van Leeuwen, who is probably in the audience, many of you know, I called on her to help find a provider who could solve this, could build a system, and we're raising money. And I've already started to learn about some of the challenges, and I'll share 4 of them with you. One of the uncertainties as we raise money is how much do we need to raise? Because we don't know if we have to pay import duties or not. We can fix this problem. We, the people in this room, and the people we know can fix this problem. There should be no tariffs on solar panels and batteries and inverters and all the stuff you need to get sustainable energy for all. No import tariffs, no doubt, no confusion. The second learning, efficiency, again, really matters. Why are we having to build this system? Because a donor, in this case UNICEF, has provided the equipment. The equipment was probably $20,000, $30,000 worth. We have to build a resilient electricity supply that will cost $100,000. Why? Because that equipment is energy inefficient, because it was designed for a country where you just plug it into the wall, where there is abundant supply of cheap power, it's resilient, it's reliable, you don't have to worry. That doesn't work in Bo, Sierra Leone. Why is that equipment energy inefficient? We, again, have to go to the manufacturers and say that is not filling the need. You've got to do better. If we're going to provide power for health and hit the health SDG, we've got to have energy efficient equipment. In this case, oxygen concentrators, baby warmers, phototherapy units, but autoclaves for sterilization, you name it, all of it has to be energy efficient. The green revolution has to also happen in health equipment. Make it energy efficient, makes it cheaper to roll out by orders of magnitude. Third lesson, the development community needs to understand energy. This was the key insight that Kande Yamkela had 10 years ago. You can't hit the SDGs without energy. And there's no point giving somebody an oxygen concentrator to save babies' lives when there are frequent power cuts, which kill babies. And we have to go out and we have to educate the rest of the development community that they need to think about power supplies. They need to think about electricity for the health equipment that they give, for the Kindles they want to give to schools, for all of this. No point if you can't plug it in and get power. And no point if you haven't got a cool chain for the vaccines or for the food, for the nutrition you're trying to deliver. And the fourth lesson is finance. I'm learning from Project Bow about the challenges of finance. We're doing it the old-fashioned way, raising money from donors. But that's not going to scale. Project Bow is one project in one country for one part of the health service. We're not going to solve this by raising donor money. There are only so many Carlos Slims. And what's happening as we get the development community to add in start thinking about power and energy at the same time as they're giving computers to schools and so on, is the capital cost of solutions, it rises. I mean, it doesn't rise, but it gets recognized. It's not operating cost, it's capital cost. It's a finance challenge, and the finance models are not in place to turn operating expense into capital. In many cases, even the operating expense is not there. We have to develop the finance models, promote them. We've got some seeds of solutions here, but it's not enough. And we have to shift, in many cases, economic value into something financeable. The economic value of solving these problems is manifest. Those babies in Bow are not the problem, they are the solution. You save their lives, they become productive. That baby in Bow, she's going to go off, she's going to get trained by Schneider to become an electrician. She's going to become an entrepreneur and roll out businesses. She could do anything. She could become the President of the United States. Well, maybe not that one, but who knows? It's weird times we live in. But that economic value of saving that life is currently not financeable. And we have to make it financeable. That's one of the core challenges, moving from economic value into something that the capital markets can spray money at. Now, I just finished by thinking about where we'll be 10 years' time. I talked about where we were 10 years ago. Really modest beginnings, surrounded by an art collection, but modest beginnings. Here we are today. Where will we be in 10 years? I have absolutely no doubt that progress will continue. Absolutely no doubt. The solutions that we see today will be flying off the shelves. They'll be being installed at a great rate. But the question is, will it be arithmetic or geometric? We do not want to be in a situation in 2028, with 2 years to go, where we say, look at all this stuff that's happening, fantastic, but we're going to fail. We want to be looking at what's happening, electricity and all those other sectors that are needed, cooking and heating, the cool chain and so on. We want to be looking at what's going on and say, do you know what? Man, this is hard work, but we're going to win. I've taken up too much of your time. Thank you very much for your attention. Let's get to work.